Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. Welcome to the Gunner side. This is coming live on Gunner Shot as well as on P Guru's channels 1 and 2. We have the three good generals with us. Let's welcome General Ravi Shankar, General Raj Shukla and General Harimohan Iyer. Namaskaram sir, how are you?
Namaskar, thanks a lot.
So today, viewers, I'm going to change the format just a little bit. So what I have is an infographic, and this summarizes what the White House has put out as a communique. We went and looked at the Chinese press release. It said a lot of stuff, but no specifics were given. So we are going to go with what White House has put out as the agreements reached, and I'm just going to summarize that for you so that forms the basis for our discussion today. Let me get the full screen, please. I need to start. Thank you so much. Everybody else, all of you can hear me. Only thing is, only I will be visible on the screen. So here we go. So Busan is a place where in South Korea where the two met, and they have agreed overall to a 1 year de-escalation in trade. In other words, whatever it is that they are going to agree, according to this Busan agreement, things will be in effect for 1 year. So this was on 30th of October 2025. Both nations agreed to suspend any further tariff increases for 1 year. The overall tariff rate against China in United States has come down to 47% because the US cut its fentanyl related tariffs from 20% to 10%. It used to be 57% previously overall tariff rate, and this reduction of 10% signals a significant de-escalation from peak tensions. Now, let us take a look at the specifics. After the 1 year pause, what are the things that United States agrees to and what are the things that China agrees to? Number one, US says cut fentanyl related tariffs on China from 20% to 10%, pause the affiliates rule, expanding export controls on subsidiaries, pause the Section 301 investigation into China's shipbuilding industry, and pause the imposition of new port fees on Chinese flagship. This was, I think, 100%. Now, China agrees to pause enacted export controls on rare earth minerals and magnets, and I'm going to go into the specifics of which ones. Suspend all retaliatory tariffs announced since March 4th, 2025. Terminate antitrust investigations into US semiconductor firms. In fact, China was investigating companies like Nvidia, among others, for their chip practices. So this is also this is a separate thread that is going on, and take significant measures to halt the flow of fentanyl precursors. This is the first time I have seen China even acknowledge that there is some hand of theirs in fentanyls. Now let's take a look at the critical mineral controls. 5 things they have said: rare earths controls pause for 1 year, gallium 1 year, germanium 1 year, antimony 1 year, and graphite 1 year. The ones that I mentioned here, these are not rare earths. Rare earths is, I think, 57 to 71 atomic number. Also, the big one for US, the agricultural purchases by China resume, and the first thing they have said is for the initial purchase by Jan 2026, they're going to take 12 million metric tons. This is soya beans. This was a huge industry, huge export for United States to China, and China said they were stopping this. This, I think, happened a couple of years ago. Now it is back on track, and also annual commitment of 25 million metric tons for the next 3 years. So this, you're talking about a fairly big number. This would give some breathing room for Trump amongst his constituency, especially the farmers of Iowa, Ohio, and so on and so forth. Now, not only that, 4 things that they have agreed to cooperate even more closely. Again, these are all on paper. What happens on the ground needs to be seen, and I'm sure the generals will have their own points to weigh in. Fentanyl and precursor chemicals, anti-money laundering, pledge to increase joint efforts to combat illicit finance. Number 3, artificial intelligence, agreed to explore dialogues on AI safety and governance. 4th one, other law enforcement includes combating illegal immigration and responding to infectious diseases, which is like COVID. Also, they have not talked about TikTok. That's the main thing that I saw interesting, that um, this agreement does not mention anything about TikTok. So this is where the White House summary is. I have now placed it in front of all of you gentlemen. I would request General Raj Shukla to start the batting today. General Raj Shukla, your impression, sir.
Thank you. So, before that, if I may just begin on a lighter note,
Yes.
people like Sri Iyer have taught generals like me to do namaskar. We were doing good evening all this while. While the BJP has taught generals to switch to Hindi.
Yes.
तुम्हारी हिंदी अच्छी हो गई और नमस्कार करने लगे. अच्छा, the serious issue now, everybody has his own take. Let me give you my take. Moment I saw the message in the morning, I just thought a little. To me, if I look at it in terms of weather, all these changes that you are talking of are significant. But if I look at it in climatic terms, that is the more long-term thing, I'm just seeing, what shall I say, an intensification of Cold War 2.0 between China, Russia, and USA. So USA and the Dragon Bear, with technology and national security as the forefront. Tariff is the cover. Now let me see if I can convince you. In true Trump style, let's see what are the deals and what are not no deals.
Yes.
So deals. Rare earths, if you leave the nitty-gritty out, it is basically the Boeing, Lockheed complaining to Trump that we can't get our ships, aircraft, and the other commercial stuff. So please intervene. And what Trump has got out of Z is a 1-year lease of life. Because I think the American understanding is that within 1.5 years, in fact, Trump said it on 60 Minutes PBS, which I was just watching half an hour back. Within 1.5 years, we'll get our act together. Till then, we have a lease of life. On fentanyl, I think the arguments are more nuanced, and it is focused on the precursors. All fentanyl is not bad. Some
Yes.
fentanyl is coming for medicines, that kind of stuff. So what worries both is the fentanyl that is going to drugs, where China is not so innocent because it is also behind this whole Venezuela power game. Regime change in Venezuela, it's linked to drugs, fentanyl. So it's a little complicated there. But because of the assurances he gave, some good boy assurances, उसने कहा चलो 57, 47. So 10% उसको वहाँ कम हो गया. As far as the substantive stuff, I was expecting a meeting, Trump and Z, either Trump traveling to China or Z traveling to USA. Nothing, vague assurances. April means that, the real finer stuff, there is no agreement. That's my understanding. Soybean, it seemed like welcome news initially, but if you go into the nitty-gritty, I've been following the American press from India. It seems to me that the assurances are not in the volumes that the Americans wanted and in the time frames. They have been spread over 4 years, so there is some hard bargaining there. There were some assurances. I heard Trump in that press gaggle back on Air Force One talking about assurances of buying energy from Alaska. But I don't see it in your readout, so I don't know what the real stuff is there. But I heard Trump myself talking about buying energy from Alaska. There were also some discussions which have not come in the readouts about Venezuela. I made that point, about regime change. We've seen some Russian pushback, landing of the IL-36 in Venezuela. So that is, some part of the geopolitics. This is good news, partially good news. No deal. No congratulations from Gaza, Africa. So this is not, like the others, even Putin gushing before. This is China, serious player. No recommendations for Nobel Prize. It is a peer, so no flattery. The body language of Z was very, very equal kind. Tik Tok, very significant, as you brought out. This whole business of ownership and who retains control of the algorithm. In my view, The fight is whether it will still stay with ByteDance, because that is where it gets strategic manipulation of Western audiences, strategic tool. So, that bit. This whole, everybody else, he got what, $500 billion from Japan, $300 billion investments, which makes very good news for the mega crowd back home. No assurance from China, investments. So, no kowtowing there. Oil trade, no significant cutback on Russia. So China has stood up. I think India should also stand up. My understanding, I may be wrong. That bit of flattery got everywhere. Trump hotels, Trump golf courses, no commitment on all that. No crypto. So all that is missing. So China is dealing with USA as an equal. On the flip side, and this is just a thought, is Trump foreign policy working? It seems to me it is. Apart from China, which has done a fair deal, everybody else is lying flat. Apart from, I think, Brazil, China, and India. So overall, he seems to be getting his way. Japan, South Korea, Europe, तो बिल्कुल ही नतमस्तक हो गया है. So overall, is it working? And now, the more I hear of Trump, we said we won't discuss it today, next week, but this nuclear testing, you see, look at Trump. He's taken some very significant steps on national security which have got unnoticed. The promise of Golden Dome, $175 billion, nuclear posture, nuclear testing. Quantico, I don't know what General Shankar thinks. The first half of the 2 days was on the loyalty questionnaire. Are you with me or not? The balance was all about the pivot to China, where they discussed 25 specific military technologies and products. They spoke of investing in long-range precision, 175% increase. This business of, a Department of Defense converting to war, lethality, war winning. Overall, it seems to me that for a while it seemed that China was ahead in the fourth industrial revolution, AI, Shai, all that kind of stuff. But now that USA has woken up, it seems to me that if USA recovers, not only will this battle intensify, but I think USA will retain the lead. Because overall, USA is far more innovative. It was a sleep. The MAGA Trump camp have woken USA, and I think that is what we must follow really closely. This one point I want to make about AI. Last time the Americans tried to strangulate the Chinese, Huawei came back strongly. I heard Gina Armando, whom I really like, a very bright mind. She today was saying in some show I saw that the curbs on Huawei didn't work. And therefore, NVIDIA is telling Trump and the Chinese that let us continue to sell our chips to the USA, because if we don't do that, we lose a market. And in the whole global frame, the American tech stack will give away to the Chinese tech stack. So in some very interesting times, this is Cold War 2.0 like no other. It's going to be far tougher than Cold War 1.0. And so for commentators like all of us, very interesting times, India should worry how it plays its cards in this intensifying Cold War. So those are my opening remarks.
Thank you so much, sir. General Harimohan Iyer, I'm going to take a couple of line items from what General Raj Shukla mentioned, and I'm going to ask your opinion on that. Take a look at Latin America. The United States has been sinking some ships off the coast of Venezuela, saying that these were drug carriers. Even the satellite pictures are available, and everybody can see that. Now, this is just one reason that is given, and people are saying that United States is probably going to even invade Venezuela. Now, what is not said here is that some of the offshore drilling that takes place outside of Venezuela, the entire rights are controlled by China. In other words, China has complete access to these things. Evidently, it's like 99-year Ramban Totalis. I haven't looked at the fine print, but that appears to be the case. Now, Venezuela is giving support to Colombia, saying, don't worry, I'll take care of you. I mean, Maduro himself is on a shaky ground. I'd like you to weigh in on that. And as far as TikTok and NVIDIA is concerned, General Ravi Shankar, I'll come to you on that, on specific inputs. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Firstly, when I looked at the fallout of this meeting, the first thing which comes to my mind is, I guess, both of them overreached when they were, playing the tariff game since March this year.
Yes.
And possibly both of them have realized that there is a need to, hold back. And that is something as Indians we should learn from, because we have held back very similarly like China, but we did not get into the aspect of retaliatory tariffs. So we have absorbed whatever has been thrown at us, but we have not budged. And that is something I take from where General Raj Shukla left, that we should learn from this current meeting between Xi and President Trump, that it's not all rosy. The American business is taking a hit, and it has begun to hurt. The first one which has come out is the Chinese, and since they don't have a very far, I'll say a more advanced stage of FTA with them, possibly this meeting was arranged. And this pause, incidentally, reassures my thought on it, that both of them have realized that they have to pull back a little and charter how to take this thing forward. And I guess there are more to come. Like General Raj Shukla says, many people are calling it the G2. I don't think it's the G2. I believe it is Cold War II. And it is time both the countries have pulled back and are re strategizing as to how to take it forward. This is an opportunity for countries like India to take it and charter their own course. That is as far as this meeting is concerned. I would also like to put in a little thought about what is tariffs. If I was to tariff you on something which puts you out of business and General Shankar is able to push his goods to me, then it is beneficial for me. But if there is no other alternative and I put tariff on you and you don't change the cost of the product, then the end user who's going to pay is you and your population, because there's no other competition. So there are certain areas in which the Trump administration possibly has to look back and see whether their tariffs are actually really working. If tomorrow, let's say, a company from India which is being highly tariffed, 50% tariff, if it budges and reduces the cost of the product, then Trump gains because the tax comes to him directly from the company. But if the company decides that yes, there is no competition and I'll still go on with 150% of the cost, then the end user will be the guy who's buying that product inside America, and the whole thing will be American money being paid back to America. And to an extent, when I look at this big, beautiful bill which Trump keeps trumpeting about, he's trying to reduce taxes there. So it is like, give from one hand and take from the other. So when you look at the whole ball game, at the end of it, if you have a product which doesn't have an alternative, these tariffs are not going to hurt. And I guess that is what India has looked at when it's formulated its strategy. Either we'll continue pushing our stuff to America or we look for alternate buyers. So that's why, as far as tariff is concerned. I also sat through the 60 minutes or 93 minutes, if I'm to put that figure together. 93 minutes, out of which about 50 minutes were all waffle. I realized that when Trump speaks, and when he gets stuck, he starts moving all over the countryside. And incidentally, I took out the transcript. It was 72-page transcripts I can share on this webpage. I read through the transcript, it is all waffle. So when he gets cornered, he starts pulling out all strings, this, that, and he brings Biden into the game and gets back to domestic lines. So basically, one can really read that Trump is on a fix. He's now trying to find a way he can create something out of this current situation that he's got into, especially into this Venezuela thing. 3 times the anchor asked him, "Are you looking at a regime change?" and he got cornered. He was trying to find ways to say that he's not getting involved in it. At one side you are saying you are the peace messiah of the world and you are trying to stop wars in the world. At the other side, when the anchor was asking him why is this American aircraft carrier off the coast of Venezuela, he says it has got to be there somewhere. So it is there. So he is not able to justify his actions, and I guess it's going to come and bite him, because all the actions that he's doing ultimately is going to have to answer for it. And that is what is going to show whether he is actually a peace messiah or a bully. And as one looks at it, it's more of a bully. I don't see Venezuela hanging out or giving in to Trump. And like General Shukla said, and I think you also brought out, I guess the Russians and the Chinese will, come into the picture, and this whole thing will become another standoff which Americans will wish that they never got into. It will go back to those old days of the 90s, early 80s, late 80s and 90s when they started, getting into Nicaragua and all these areas. And then they were struggling to get out of these places. So I guess that is where they are headed to as far as this issue is concerned. And I believe they are interesting times. And as far as Indian is concerned, it's time to re-strategize because it is very clear that both China and USA both have to rethink their strategies, which means there is an opportunity. It means there is a third angle to this triangle, and that is where we fit in. Are we going to go with Americans or are we going to start reinforcing BRICS? There are multiple questions. Today, saw another post which came out which said there is a meeting between Australia, Japan, Philippines, and the Americans. And somebody had, commented on the social media saying possibly this is the new Quad or sub-Quad, Quad as part of the Pacific part. So is America losing its interest in the Indian Ocean? Is it going to shift towards only Pacific? These are questions we need to look at. If it does so, then it will pull China into the Pacific and leave the Indian Ocean for others. And yes, all that discussion we had a couple of weeks back about this trade route going through the Arabian Sea into the Europe possibly will give India enough space to dominate the Indian Ocean region. So, like Gen Raj Shukla says, yes, these are interesting times, and I hope the Indian government is, hands on these issues because there are multiple facets to each of these issues. As far as the rare magnets are concerned, we are also beneficiary of this pass. We will also get some breathing space to try and see how to, because this curve is across the world, across the globe. So we'll get our requirement of rare earth and possibly get that 1 year's time to straighten our business. And possibly if Trump says in 60 minutes that he'll get the entire Europe and Australia and Japan and South Korea to make up for whatever the Chinese are holding, if he can do it, I'm sure we can also do it. So I leave it at this and leave it to General Shankar to take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. General Shankar, a couple of things that were touched upon, but we have not looked at in depth. Number one is TikTok, and number two is NVIDIA still wanting to sell its chips to China. And Jensen Huang has been kind of singing praises of Trump, and he was hoping that flattery will get him everywhere. And still, the jury is out on that. Now, there's a gulf that has been created starting from the Biden administration when suddenly in a 30-day window they told all semiconductor related employees belonging to the United States to essentially leave China or lose their citizenship. And I believe that everybody complied. I was talking to a friend of mine who supplies materials to fabs. There are only 3 or 4 companies that do that, and he said that pulling us out of China has hit us by 20%. Our bottom line got hit 20%. So if it is for one company, I can say that almost every tech company that was supplying components, chips, what have you, to China, everybody has seen a hit of 20%. General Ravi Shankar, this game by denying somebody chips, how successful is that in the long run? Because we also heard that Taiwan somehow was sneaking in, or China was sneaking in chips from TSMC into China, some of the high-end chips. So I just want you to analyze this thing. Let's take a look at first the chip thing, and then afterwards we'll talk about TikTok, which is a slightly different story. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Look, you're trying to pack too many things into this chip over which we're talking. Okay, so I'll focus on a few issues which matter. As far as the chip war and all, it will continue. If you think NVIDIA will get a free hand to go and sell in China, out of question. Right? The ace in China's hand is the chips. So not in China's hands. In US hands is the chips. That's the only major counter to the rare earths. So that will not be allowed to go. So forget about business transaction, hit, pit and all that. I'm sure that much sense people in America have. And they'll make it good in some other way. What General Raj Shukla said is very important in the beginning. America is waking up. America which reinvents itself is a dangerous America. One. Okay, it's a very dangerous America. People don't understand it. The second point, America has this tremendous ability to reinvent itself. This is historic. Whether it's after the Great Depression, after the Second World War, after the recent crash, 2007-8, Freddie Mae Mac crash, or for that matter, after the pandemic. After pandemic, everyone wrote off America. Overnight, that fellow's gone and sat on top. So don't counting out US for small tactical things is asking for trouble. On the flip side, China doesn't have this capability. China has only grown up and up and up so far. Now it is going down and down and down. It is not showing any recuperability. It is, you see, yesterday I heard the Singapore PM, Hsien Loong, say, look, in times to come, even India might overtake China. And the core reason, is only one. He said, India has a youthful population. And China has a population which is going down, declining faster than you can imagine. You see, in all these talks, I go back to that because this is where I started 5-6 years back when I started analyzing China. The biggest weakness of China is population. Okay. Many people have underrated and even laughed at me when I say this. Remember one thing, nations are made of people and people make economies. Economy is not about robots, technologies and all that nonsense. It's about people. And this is China's Achilles heel and it will not run away. And that puts China at a permanent disadvantage in Cold War 2.0. People, fundamentally people. Okay, now let me talk of a few macro issues. It doesn't matter who won or lost. Both have got each other out of the jail or got themselves out of the jail. USA was in a jail, so was China. Both have got out of that jail. You know what you put out in that infographic, yeah, about the 10% fentanyl tariff, entity list, suspension, restriction suspension, and that 301 investigation suspension is a huge let off for China from the jail. Otherwise, they were cooked. I mean, I can't explain how now in this short time, but otherwise they were cooked. And internally, we must understand that today China is virtually not exporting anything to USA. That market is over. And there is no way back into that market even with this thing going out. Remember that. Energy flows still USA controls. I agree that, there's a face-off. In this face-off, no one is lost, no one is won. But overall, the person who is hurting more is China. And the guy who's taking the risks today, high caliber risks, is USA. Whether they will work out or not, I don't know. Okay? That's the thing which I very seriously look at. But let me look into a few issues which are, little different. Trump and Xi Jinping both are autocrats. Both have the same obsession. They want to see themselves the greatest in their histories. And they are fanatical self-promoters. Okay, they've already cast their names in the history of their thing. One chap wants to, make America great again. One chap wants to rejuvenate China. Century of humiliation, revenge against the century of humiliation. They both see themselves as men of destiny. Both come from privileged backgrounds. Interestingly, both are at war. I'm using this word very carefully. Both are at war with their own systems. Both are purging their militaries. Both are purging their bureaucracies. Okay? What does it indicate to you? it indicates to you both these so-called superpowers are actually weak. They are today at their weakest. We can keep talking, iska utna, it is like two heavyweights who are intestines are, got infection and they're sluggish today. Their economies might be big, but that's about all. Their economies are the sluggish economies today for many reasons. Okay. The next thing which we have to understand in this whole story is no one trusts them. Before this, there were a lot of alliances with China and USA. After this, there are not many left with both. I mean, the alliances are there. China has it in a different form, but no one trusts them. And why everyone thinks Russia, China is an alliance? You see, Putin himself is looking to his own. If he gets a good deal, he'll ditch China. I mean, we shouldn't have doubts about it. Right? So, both are not, they have this thing. They have internal political issues. Rest of the world is seeking actively to reduce dependency on both. Whether it is Europe, look, which are the big entities where they have to go, where China and USA have to go to. You understand it from that point. They have to go to Europe, they have to go to India, they have to go to Japan, South Korea, they have to go to Latin America, and they have to go to the global South. All these places, their influence is reducing because of lack of trust. Okay, I mean, so there is a problem in their whole thing. Another interesting thing is that both want influence. China wants influence. He's come out with his own dolki. कि भैया मैं तो global governance initiative शुरू कर रहा हूँ. He wants to govern the globe his way. He wants UN headquarters to move to China. That's what he's come out. If you see, you read their Mandarin papers. They want headquarters of many, and he's also starting his own stories. Some international mediation organization. I mean, that's the way a Chinese story always starts, in obscurity before it gains traction. Okay, there Trump says, I have nothing to do with UN. You go to hell. China doesn't want to fund the UN, but he wants the headquarters there. So you see, we are in a strange kind of a situation. No one wants to give up anything. No one wants to give anything. When I say give anything, not to each other, to the rest of the world. So actually, this is the time for the rest of the world to get together and start making their own way. And that willy-nilly is happening. And that both these people understand. If you see Trump, he started backtracking with India. He's also started backtracking with Japan, Korea, and NATO. Same competition, China is also there. Okay, he's also started sucking up to us. Well, let's not have doubts about it. So the story which is emerging is there will be a Cold War between Russia, so between USA and China, but there will be no spheres of influence. There will be no spheres of influence. The spheres of influence are willy-nilly gone. Now, there's an issue which came out about Indian Ocean region and Indo-Pacific and all. Trump and company can't leave Indian Ocean. Then what happens to all that empire they made from Israel to Pakistan? So, if we think that will happen, no. Why do you think Pete Hegseth came and put that framework, 10-year framework deal with Rajnath Singh? That defense framework is actually of no great use, to be very honest. It's an old thing. It is an old. For the past 2 decades, we've been having this defense cooperation agreement. It's the same thing. So, but why did he do it? It's a step back. They suddenly realized they can't do without India. So has China. Why is China said you get us import? I'll take imports from you. I'll import from India. I'll increase. Of course, his exports also increase. That's a different story, right? So there is a fundamental shift which is happening, and this Trump Z deal is only a symptom of the shift. We have to read the shift. Am I interested in Z winning? I'm not. Am I interested in Trump winning? I'm not. I'm interested in India winning. What is best for India? That's the way I look at it. Realpolitik. What's best for India? Okay. The best for India, as far as I'm concerned, we have to go along with China in certain issues. In issues which we feel are okay for us. Because there's a lot of opportunities there. But the problem is, if you go with China and you go economically with China, you become China dependent. And the problem for China is also, if they help us, if they get involved with India, they virtually help your rise, which will be completely against them. That's the bind in which India and China find themselves. And how do you resolve this bind? This is a $1 million question between us and. As far as USA is concerned, how do you trust this fellow? He still has his favorite field marshal sucking around. How do you trust him? So what do? But you still have to have this deal with him because you're already committed to him. Please understand, we are committed to USA in some form for the past 20 years. Whether you like it or not. Because you are a complete strategic fleet. When I say strategic fleet, your airlift capability is all from USA. You buy a Globemaster from USA, for the next 30 years you have no choice but to deal with them. I'm sure Hari will understand what I'm talking. I am sure even Raj, all of you will understand. It's not that Raj doesn't understand. I've taken Hari because Hari dealt with these issues with me.
You said, sir, Hari is a smart.
No, it's
No,
not
he
that
did
way.
not.
That is because Hari, look, Hari was, working with me on many of these deals. That's why the moment you take an equipment for a country like USA, which is based on that something called the foreign military sales, the relationship is thereafter for the next 3 to 4 decades. The first one which we did was on the weapon locating radar, ANTPQ 37. We took it in 2000. Today it's 25 years. We are still dealing with the US on that. So there's a relationship with the US which you cannot eject out. And you committed $20 billion for that. It's not peanuts. I'm talking realpolitik. Okay. On the other hand, you have China, which is now putting out maps in Taiwan, okay, where it shows India without Kashmir completely. That fellow is focusing on the border. And he's talking trade to you. Okay. When we say let's focus on the border, he says trade. When you say trade, he's focusing on the border. That's the China you have to deal with. So when we do this whole story, okay, now let me touch on rare earths. What is rare earths? It's incidentally, graphite. The best quality of graphite is available in Arunachal Pradesh. The flakiest graphite, which is the best, purest. But the problem for us is, how do you mine it from there? There is ecological problems if you mine it. Why do you think that fellow wants South Tibet? He doesn't want South Tibet so that they can name it with some Jinping, a peak as Jinping or 2 or 3 like that. He wants it for the graphite which is there. He doesn't have rare earths, incidentally. In the rare earths, which are made, the dysprosium or the samarium based rare earths, he doesn't have. They are in Myanmar. Okay, what he had is finished, Chinese trap. But what he's got is technology. Now the rest of the world has technology. It's not as if they don't have. America, Japan, Australia have the technology. Incidentally, India has the capability. India has the quantities. You know, again, rare earths are 8 or 10 minerals, elements. Not all elements are available everywhere, right? We have some elements in plenty. Even for that matter, why do you think they're going to Pakistan? Pakistan, they say they've got antimony there. That's why they're running around there. So you have to understand rare earth. Can't put a blanket thing, and there is a fact. It's not now. Even about 3 years back, people in China understood that their hold on rare earths is only for 5 years. 3 years back, out of which 3 years has gone, people have done nothing. But Japanese have enough technology. So you start the process today. It's not as if others don't know. Others have not concentrated on it because it's very polluting. If you start today, the next 2 years minimum, you will start see the results coming out. The day others start making rare earth, China will collapse. Their controls start going. And that's 2 years away. If not 2, 3 years away. And China knows it. So you will see a lot of hedging. You will see a lot of fight for technology. You will see a lot of issues going forward. But you will also see both these superpowers and their weaknesses coming up. They can't be hidden anymore. And it is in this context that we have to take a call as to what we need to do. You have to internalize and see what best you can get out of both of them. What best can you get out of Russia? Because if you see India-Russia history, we've got a lot of equipment from them. We got a lot of things from them, but we've not got technology from them. We have failed in getting technology from them. Okay, so these are the issues. I thought I'll take it out. I'll be very happy if tomorrow Trump gets, caught in Venezuela. That's just the American way of doing things. It doesn't matter me, right? As far as I can get oil from there, I'm looking at it, right? If I can't do that, I should start becoming good friends with Guyana because that's the next place where you can get oil. So I'm sorry I've hijacked the whole agenda, brought it back to India. But I think our focus of all this analysis has to be India. Sorry, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm going to open the field for Raj Shukla ji and Harimohan Iyer ji, so that each of you can pick up on what the other said and add to that. And then I have one question for all three of you. Let's start with General Raj Shukla ji. Over to you, sir. Your thoughts.
So General Shankar has pointed to some very real issues. And as I keep saying, the challenge is how is this aspiring Vishwa Bandhu navigate its way between this fight between a challenged hegemon and a risen challenger China. That's the nub of the matter for the next 2 decades. So some very interesting issues. So let me make some points. You see, China has extended its economic interests far beyond its sphere of influence. Venezuela. But China's true test will come in Venezuela, in West Asia, when it has to shed blood. What I mean is that having this fancy military, 10,000 cruise missiles, all that is good. But when you shed blood, that is the true test of a superpower, like USA, Iraq, Afghanistan. Now, when it comes to Venezuela, you have got commercial interests. When Trump is challenging them militarily, what do? Do you respond by counter-challenging him, or you divide it into spheres of influence? So tell Trump कि ये Venezuela और ये सब आपके हैं, Taiwan छोड़ दो. Now that is the issue which General Shankar raised. Is it going to be these spheres of influence, or is it not going to be these spheres of influence? I don't know. but the pointers are to that direction. This quid pro quo, Venezuela, Taiwan. अमेरिका भी जानता है कि ताइवान को to keep it away from the Chinese is not going to work. So are they going to? And this what raises this prospect of G2. It may not be a immediate reality, but why it is always in the air. The other issue, I want to comment on this business of TikTok. See, this is where this coupling decoupling thing gets complicated. Trump needs TikTok because it is his voter base. Those buggers have voted for him. But the problem is about that algorithm. That algorithm bite dance usko chhodega nahi. Now this is where China is not the Soviet Union. Soviet Union didn't have the cards. China has many cards. So this is one issue we have to take care of. This business of the PLA is extremely important. Yesterday I was talking to General Saini, the vice chief. I know it, he knows it. PLA is a very peculiar entity. Hardware, it's doing well, 10,000 cruise missiles, 3 aircraft carriers. But his software is in a mess. Those 96 corrupt generals, these soldiers along the LAC, pehle the Chinese were tough. We couldn't resource our soldiers. Today we are tougher. Those chaps are collapsing of HAPO. They can't, fight in high altitude. Now it is very difficult to say which way these things will play out. Is the PLA social media fluff? I mean, what must be bothering Z the most is कि यार मैंने सब कुछ कर दिया, but what do I do with these 100 corrupt generals? So that is what the dilemma is. This point about demographics which General Shankar raised is a very critical point. You see, all the advantages that China has are in the next decade. Industrial capacities, AI, these technologies. So if the Americans and the Chinese come to a military contest or confrontation, say over Taiwan in the next decade, the pointers seem to be that China will win. This issue of population demographics is very material, but the time frame in which it will play out is 2050 and beyond. Now this is the question. In the immediate future, China seems to have the edge. If you take the 4 industrial revolutions, Industrial Revolution 1 was steam engine, the Brits were clearly there in the lead. 2 and 3, which is Ford and electricity and all that, China was in the USA was in the clear lead. 4th Industrial Revolution, China is in the clear lead. Can USA win strategically, militarily when the Industrial Revolution lead is with China? Now that is the critical question. I don't have any answers. This point that General Shankar made about Russia, Trump, I personally think Trump is a very smart cookie. You see, वो पढ़ता लिखता नहीं है. So his interviews appear to be very, jungly, petulant. But his instincts are right. शुरू से he was trying to get Putin away from the Chinese. Reverse Kissinger. वो हुआ नहीं. All that bit of Putin is my friend, that has not happened. The point about the Russians, if General Shankar was saying what I'm going to say, I agree with him totally. The Russians have been good friends, but not sincere friends. They have not given you the highest technologies. The highest technologies, for some strange reason, have gone to PLA, including quieter submarines, 5th, 6th generation engine technology, not to us. We have got platforms, but not the end technologies. And just 2 last points. To me, it seems, and I'm open to debate on this. When the dust settles down, our only choice is the USA, whether we like it or not. And the USA's choice in Asia is only India, whether it likes it or not. So, does not common sense tell us that let's sit together? अभी जो थोड़ा बहुत कंसेशन अगर ट्रम्प को देना है वो डेयरी प्रोडक्ट्स वगैरह में दे दो, but get that technology because you will get it from nowhere. I'll give you one example, air power. The where BVR combat has stalemated in India, unless you have stealth, you cannot operate in contested envelopes. It is existential. There is no way. You look at the Israeli model, stealth. 24% of the American fleet is stealth. Chinese Air Force 300 aircraft is stealth. हमारे पास stealth है ही नहीं. We only way we will get all this is through the Americans. And if somehow the day Trump realizes, or we can do a deal with Trump, somebody was suggesting Ambani should invest $300 billion in USA. I mean, do anything for this chap. If you can get Trump's trust, Asim Munir will be dumped in 6 milliseconds. Asim Munir is not the issue. If India, and I'm saying this because do we have any other options? I don't think so. And the last 2 points I would like to make is that, see, even in the strategic choke points, in renewables, China is in the lead. Green energy, EVs. So it's not only in chips, it is in the technologies of tomorrow. China is in the lead. And the last point I would like to make is this, that yes, I also think that a recovering USA is a very dangerous proposition. There have been many challenges in the past, as General Shankar pointed out. Japan, Imperial Germany, they were pretenders. Ultimately, USA won. Now that USA has woken up, I think it will win, and therefore it is the horse that we must back. We could have a modus vivendi with China, but our problems are too many. And the last point I would like to make is this, that if USA can recover, if China can respond to all these challenges with clinical precision, the problem with Indians is that we have so much going for us. We are talented, so much of potential. If we would just stop being lazy in thought and execution, the world is ours. But the problem to make Indians, unlazy in thought and execution is very difficult. Innovation is being killed by regulation even today in ministry after ministry. तो ये जो regulation और ये सब है, इसको अगर हम हटा दें, India can convert its weight and influence into power. So these are some of the imponderables of geopolitics, in my view, over the next 2 decades. But certainly one of the most interesting times I have seen in 60 years since my birth.
Thank you so much, sir. General Harimohan Iyer, over to you, sir.
Firstly, I'll take it on from where General Shukla and General Shankar left. General Shankar made a point about South Korea and Japan, bending down. I guess after Busan, I personally feel there's going to be a turnaround. Especially, I look at Japan countering whatever it has given, and I see they will be posturing. South Korea too, I feel possibly played in a little too early, and I guess Trump is in for tough times because it's a game of a boxer. The moment you pull your guard down, then the opponent gets an opportunity. And I guess this particular meeting in Busan has indicated both China and US as people who are susceptible to pressures. So I look at both these countries also coming back. As far as the personality thing which General Shankar said, I will add Modi to it. The problem is, they are all like poles, whether it is Modi, Xi Jinping, Trump, or Putin. All of them are, in the same space. They all want to look at their respective countries good. So when you have like poles, there's likely to be a degree of friction, and there's likely to be repulsions. So that is an issue which, when you have two like people, somebody has to give in. Now the question is who will give in. So that is a problem which I see with India and Trump. And it has started from 10th of May. That posture that you have taken, that, and I keep saying this, and I've been saying this in many places where I've been talking to. So we say we will have no third party intervention, fine, absolutely fine. We say we will not talk with you, then who will we talk to? We'll say we will not talk in the UN also. We say we'll withdraw our ambassador, we'll withdraw our defense attaché. So when you create a situation like this, then you're giving an opportunity for people like Trump to come in, and that is where possibly we have got cornered. We have to come back, possibly trace back our steps, and try and find a median, because we have boxed ourselves into the corner in the current scenario. And like both the generals said, I also agree. In the current dynamics, the natural space for India is the US. We are the two countries which have similarities to develop together. and Europe becoming the median in which both of us can, spread our dominance, both in terms of trade and influence. And that is what that IMEC was supposed to do. It was being pulled and pushed from two sides. It was a wonderful organization where Europe was coming as a middle. Somehow we got lost, and once again I say Op Sindoor and possibly the events thereafter has pushed us into a corner where we have to come out of. As General Raj Shukla said, there has to be some give and take, whether it's in terms of the trade deal or whether in terms of geopolitics. Going and trying to get into the Chinese sphere of influence at this stage may or may not be the right way forward. Whether it's an attempt to pressurize the Americans to find their or backtrack. The question again, I said both these people are very strong personalities. So there has to be a possible meeting, just like Xi and Trump, possibly at the sideline somewhere, where we also possibly will emerge in some kind of a temporary truce and temporary pause. For all you know, Modi might recommend Trump to the Nobel Peace Prize next year for stopping 6 wars, not the seventh one which he claims. Uh, that having said, I believe opportunities are there in the sense we are the demographically youngest nation. But I agree with General Raj Shukla, not only do we have bureaucracy, we have our political commitments. So if Sri Iyer says, H1B is a big issue for him, H1B is a big issue for me. I don't want my talent to go to US. I want my talent to stay in India.
Blessing
I
in
want,
disguise.
I want Sri Iyer and entire Iyer community who's sitting in US working for NVIDIA and all these companies to come back and work for India. I want India to be the chip manufacturing capital of the world. As the Prime Minister said, we can do it. But the problem is, how do we do it when you have 50% reservations happening? So the talent goes out. No, we have to. That's where our demographics actually, balances itself out. We may be the youngest growing nation in the world. We have the youngest demographics, but we have an isolated demographics. When our people go out and work for other countries, we work for other people. We have to look at it, and I don't see it happening in the immediate future until and unless somebody has, a huge majority to make these sweeping changes. Even our judiciary, we have problems. Like somebody, like General Shankar said, environmental problems. Certain times strategic interests of the nation should take precedence over these kind of things. We have been struggling to find a space in the Andaman Nicobar space to create a strategic base. But every time we move a case, the issue of environment comes in. General Shankar struggled to try and find a sandbar 50 meter by 50 meter which doesn't have a tree to fire a BrahMos missile in the Andamans. And I remember those days because every time you took a file, they said, "Oh, first take an environmental clearance." And then you had a minister who had different, I will not go there, but then we all know whom I'm talking about. So the problem with us is we are too much of bureaucracy, too much of politics. And we are a very diversified nature. So today, if the election is in Bihar, the whole thing is different. Tomorrow, the elections will shift to Tamil Nadu, the whole aspects will change. And that is the problem with us. You can't change your priority just because a state election is happening or a municipality election is happening somewhere. We have to have national interest, focused, and we go by it. And I, to an extent, expect the current government. Possibly, I wish they had got their full majority. Today, they are actually, riding a little difficult ship with a lot of compromises. That having said, the supporting parties are not to be blamed. It is the main party which is thinking twice before taking difficult steps. So we are in the game as I look at it, and this is the opportunity because what happened in Busan indicates that everything is not rosy. There is enough scope for hard bargain, and I'm sure the people who are supposed to do that are up and about with it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. General
Yeah, I
Shukla
just,
wanted to say something. Yeah.
yeah, I want to say something. This business of PLA and and a military confrontation in the Indo-Pacific or over Taiwan. Let me set that in my perspective. And take it from what Raj Shukla said. Xi Jinping must be worried about what kind of a PLA he has. With the kind of generals being sacked, all that. If that's the kind of a PLA is, will he undertake a military confrontation with anyone? The history and right one. Number two, China is never like the true test of China will come when it has to shed blood. It has shied away from shedding blood. It has shown no interest in shedding blood. The reason is simple, and not from now, right from days of Mao. Not only from Mao, you go back in the imperial days. China never set its foot outside. That's their history. You can't. If you don't understand their history, you will never achieve anything. Why? The fundamental reason is war is risky. And the Chinese Communist Party doesn't want to take risk. They want to hold on to power. They don't mind holding on to power in this format rather than going into Taiwan and losing power altogether. They'll never go to war. They will never even attempt to, except some propaganda and some minor skirmishes, nothing will happen. That's the first part. That's my understanding of China, not technology. Technology is not China. If we characterize China by the technology it has, I think we're completely off the mark. Right. The second part is the demography. I don't agree with General Raj Shukla on this when he says demographic problems will start after 2050. 2030. I'm putting a date today. We can get together in 2030, same day, and discuss the demography. I'll not be the only guy discussing. This will be a worldwide subject. You know why? Because the demography of China is declining at the fastest rate in human history. If you read their demography in detail, you will come to know the demographic abyss they are in. And all their technology will fall flat in front of that. And it's happening. It's happening. Of the top 20 economies, India has the lowest median age at 29.8. China moved up in the past 3 years. To 39.8. In the next 5 years, it will go to about 50. Just think of a country which has a median age of 50. Will it fight? I'm putting all these because what happens is this is the Chinese propaganda. The Chinese propaganda dazzles you with what you want to see. And when you see behind that facade, there's another story which is coming up. It's not to denigrate China's capability today. You have a problem today with China, that won't run away. But that don't, mask or rise to what actually China is when you deal with it. Back to you.
Thank you so much, sir. We didn't have much time to talk about TikTok. Let me just, I'll give one minute to all of you gentlemen to answer. I'll just set the stage. The way the negotiations have proceeded, a conglomerate of American companies are going to own 80%, with 20% left to whether ByteDance or whoever. But ByteDance has refused to give their algorithm for use in the new version of TikTok in the United States. And I think Oracle, which is hosting TikTok today, within the geographical parameters of United States, has said that, well, we can do the same algorithm, if not better. So that's where things stand. I haven't seen the last word on that. This is where things stand. So just your summation, why TikTok is so important? I mean, other than the fact that the youth of America flock to it, it's not just the youth of America, gentlemen. India banned it, but much of the world looks to TikTok. And I'll tell you one big thing that they have done in the recent past, about a month and a half ago. If you're watching a video, then they start putting ads inside the video itself, like in the bottom square. And if you click on that, immediately you can buy that product. It has taken this compulsive buying to a whole new level. So much so that from last week on, you go to General Ravi Shankar's channel, Gunner Shot, watch it on your phone, and you will start seeing YouTube doing the same thing. You will start seeing the products that Gunner Shot sells. They have a few products. You have a few products, General. If you click on that, immediately your products come up. So YouTube is also playing catch up, but how quickly have they caught up is the interesting thing. What I'm trying to say is there may not be a big deal in TikTok's algorithm. However, it's like, possession is 90% of the law or something of that nature, that they have occupied the mind space of the youth. And how others are going to take it away is a big deal. Over to you, gentlemen. Gentlemen, we start with Raj Shukla ji. TikTok's impact on the world and how the world needs to wean itself away from TikTok, the youth especially. I don't know how we can do that. Over to you, sir.
So you see, TikTok is a reflection of the larger trend or malaise of shorter attention spans.
Yes.
So in India, you have to see how the youth are captivated by reels. And very frankly, reels are attractive. Pehle, one used to listen to these All India Radio, Vinaka Geet Mala, 1 hour. Today you can get the crux of those songs in these reels, very fascinating reels. So these shorter attention spans, they do work. Now, how they have played out in TikTok is that the people who are, shall we say, fans of TikTok, as I said, also form part of Trump's base, voter base. They elected him to power. So Trump is not prepared to ban TikTok because they were part of his voter base. Now, how the Chinese have used it very shrewdly is that, I mean, while they can, what shall I say, represent fashion trends, trends in movies, cinema, the control of the algorithm has been used in geopolitics to influence Western audiences in the West Asian crisis. So the fact is, how do you trade off the commercial payoffs, the social payoffs, the electoral payoffs with this larger strategic dynamic? Now, if ownership transits to the American companies and the control of the algorithm still stays with ByteDance, the strategic and the social impulses come into direct conflict. Now, if the American companies are saying that they can also build a better algorithm, that will perhaps mean reinventing TikTok. So it gets a little complicated here. I don't know what the answer is, but I think that is the reality of TikTok, in my understanding.
Thank you so much, sir. General Harimohan Iyer.
Well, I got used to TikTok only for about 6 odd months, and then the whole thing got banned. Okay. Uh, Reels today are coming up in big way. I don't see TikTok being the only alternative. Today, Instagram to a large extent has occupied the space, at least in India it has done. So I'm sure the same can happen in the other countries also. TikTok should not be the only platform that one should be, heading to. Today, many of us are even going out of WhatsApp and getting into Arate, and we find that it's a fairly a very good platform to go to. So when there is a good alternative, the main alternative will have to find its own way to stay relevant. To that extent, as far as an Indian is concerned, I don't think any Indian remembers TikTok to that extent, other than seeing in a part of their X feeds or Insta feeds where you get to access some of these content which comes from the Western world. But that having said, I like it. I agree with General Raj Shukla that it has been used by the Chinese to their strategic advantage by getting those kind of issues like Middle East crisis, etc. But then the same thing is being done by Twitter as well as today to a large extent by even Instagram. So there will be an alternative, and I guess that is the way forward. And if India can stay without TikTok for 5 years, and still, I don't think anybody in India wants TikTok anymore. I don't think so. So if that be so, I'm sure Trump can find a way to create a similar platform, and if he can do it, TikTok will become irrelevant. And that is why I guess he was not pushing for it during this meet. It was one of those things which was kept out of this current interaction with Z. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, it is believed, General Ravi Shankar, that Rahul Gandhi got inspired to say taka tak from TikTok. I'd like your thoughts on TikTok. You're muted, sir. You're muted. You're muted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, I'm very clear about TikTok. TikTok is completely commercial in nature. It is 100% propaganda, and it is addictive. And this is all typical Chinese way of doing things. If you look at their communist, propaganda writing, you look at Mao's writings, you look at this Xi Jinping's, thought. If you read the 12 volumes, if you read and even if you skim through them, it's all TikTok. TikTok gets inspired by communist propaganda. You keep repeating it, keep repeating it, keep repeating it. You get addicted. Once you're addicted, you can't go, and then you are mentally enslaved to that propaganda. The only thing is, this is not only it's not only an ideological tool; it's also a commercial tool. And the only way to get away from this is to ban it, and that's what we've done. But then, the larger social issue is like what General Raj Shukla said: everyone wants everything in 1 minute. So if you ban TikTok, the others will come in. So the alternative is you make your own. You have no choice, right? But we have our problems in making our own because, like what General Harimohan said, our social and socio-political, setup or mosaic in the country doesn't allow you to make a TikTok. It will not be allowed to flourish. 2 days, that chap will be in the Supreme Court, and fourth day it will be closed. So I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. There is a lot to discuss about the options to TikTok. Certainly, I have been hooked on to Instagram Reels also because that's what is really doing well in India. And I know a little bit about the technology that's gone in behind all this stuff, how Meta is managing all this. We'll talk about all that stuff on a different day because today we're already an hour and 11 minutes. We have a few questions for you, generals. We'll just quickly go through them and maybe we can wrap it up in 5 minutes if you don't mind. Let's have some questions, please. Observer, thank you for becoming YouTube member. Kumaresh Ananda, thank you so much for your super sticker. Amitesh wants to know, General Raj Shukla, this is the question for you, sir. Should we prioritize that which threaten theater command should be created first? For me, Northern, Maritime and Digital should be our first priority to counter China. Over to you, sir.
See, theater command should have been created as of yesterday.
Therefore,
These needless 40-year debates need to end in the next 2 seconds. It is very clear what the logic of theater commands is. But if you have to prioritize, in my view, space and cyber should be upgraded to combatant command status tomorrow. Because it is, as Sindhu told us, it is not platforms, but system level integration which will matter. And system level integration comes from capacities in space, cyber, EW. So if I have a roadmap, next 15 days, space and cyber, then roll out the northern, the eastern, western, and maritime in the next 1 month. There is no problem at all. And as you roll them out, it is not only structural, digital integration is a part of this. See, the basic question is what? In my view, I don't know what General Shankar and Hari think. We are not even data ready. If you are not data ready, AI has not even begun. So we really need to ramp up our whole thing. This theaterization is not about air power. It is about, diplomacy. It is about converging other capacities. Air power is just a speck. And the way forward, air power is extremely important. But air power has to be the right mix of manned and unmanned platforms. CCA, capacities in space, cyber, as I said, air power in theaterized structures. So the theater commands in some is a debate of the 1990s. It should end, as I said, in the next 2 seconds. And these space and cyber should be set up in the next fortnight. There's no debate left. We have chewed all the debate out of it. It is all lazy, siloed pushback, tribalism. That is all. That is the problem.
Thank you so much, sir. General Harimohan Iyer, this is for you, sir. How do you see Trump's comment about Pakistan testing nukes?
we are talking about it next week, so I think this question can be held back because it will take the of next week's discussion.
Let's do that. Next question for you again, General Harimohan Iyer. ask
Again,
if
same
other
thing. Again, same thing. It's again
okay.
related.
Third one, Raj Shukla sir, you said in many shows that India should work on latest technology, but I've never heard you say India should invest on tech world has never seen before. US always works on new technology and not catch up. I'm going to throw this question open to General Harimohan Iyer, and General Raj Shukla can also weigh in. Sir.
Certainly. I mean, if India stops reacting to change and creates change, I mean, I would be the happiest. Our problems are different. How come we were the world's, or I was at least told that the leaders in IT, and that has not transitioned into leaders in AI? We were just discussing. We have the world's best tech talent. We have no Google, no Facebook, no TikTok. Now, this is the problem. In some ways, we are regressing. Of course, we should create the world's next technologies. But if you say today in AI, the moot point is what? Should we attack frontier AI or should we focus on AI diffusion? China has made the clear choice. It cannot beat USA in frontier AI, so it is focusing on diffusion. We are doing neither. So we are a strange place. I don't know what our problem is. We say we are good in IT, it doesn't transition into AI. In some ways, we are regressing. I pointed out many times on your platform, if graduates from IIT Mumbai and IIT Kanpur apply for jobs as sub-inspector CBI, there is something wrong with the whole tech ecosystem. So technology is our greatest challenge. We have to get all these pieces together. And of course, if we can do quantum or robotics, why not?
General
So
Harimohan, I would like you to
I
add to
believe,
that. Yes, sir.
I believe
Yeah.
the problem is we are still playing catch up. And while we are playing catch up, I guess, like Raj Shukla says, the talent gets distributed. Some go migrate abroad, some get distributed into bureaucracy. And what we are left with is possibly the talent which is not able to manage that catch up. Especially in our government organizations, we don't get the kind of talent that needs to be there. The vision is there, but I don't see the vision being taken forward. I guess possibly that's why when we discussed H1B last time, and I was one of those who say H1B should go. It's the only time India can grow. If the talent stays in India, they'll grow. And I'm sure once they start growing, the money will also come. But then that is something which is not going to happen, at least in my lifetime.
Thank you so much, sir. I want to ask for advice to all our parents who are bringing up children from like 3-4 years onward. When they start asking questions, don't leave it to the school teacher to explain to them things, because that will be rote system, which is what we were all brought up on. If they ask you why, explain to them why a certain thing is working in a certain way. They ask you how, also explain that. Don't try to say that, go read the book because you're tired from a long day of work. Please do this little bit of investment. The children need to understand that curiosity has to be encouraged. Why something is doing something, why certain thing works and certain thing doesn't work, because that is where the seed for innovation gets sown. Sir, today even in the public schools in the United States, questioning is encouraged. The teachers are always expecting strong hard questions from the children, and this is something that I saw missing when I was studying. I think and I hope that Indian parents take it upon themselves to start teaching the children why something is certain way, how something is certain way. I'm sorry, I'll stop here. Let's go to the next question for General Shankar. Observer, thank you so much for becoming YouTube. Yeah, yes sir, go ahead sir.
I wanted to say something, Mr. Iyer.
Yes sir.
Instead of appealing to the parents, I will tell our children, start questioning. Rebel against your parents, rebel against your teachers.
Yes.
You will profit in life. Mark Twain was asked as to why he was so successful in life. And he said, I was successful because I took great care never to let my schooling interfere with my education. In India, schooling doesn't stop till 35. Exam, true and false, match the following. Maar rakha hai. And the uncle and aunties who say, Acha, beta, what are you doing? If I say I'm interested in geopolitics, they'll think I'm a moron. They'll push me into science where I'm useless. So let the children choose what they want to do, and children must rebel. The days Indian children start rebelling, we will become a different society.
Yes indeed. Next question for General Shankar. How effective will be a EU, India, Russia bloc against G2 if EU and Russia can sort out their differences? General
Look,
Shankar and
this
General Harimon can weigh in after that,
no,
sir.
no, this is an imaginary block. It can't happen. So we shouldn't we shouldn't go playing like Don Quixote's against windmills. Leave it at that.
I
General,
was trying to give I was trying to give an equation of putting the tiger and a sheep together in the same cage and expecting them
It
to
will
eat
not happen.
it. It doesn't happen.
next question. This is for all three of you. Any one of you can raise your hands and answer it. Akash Tadani wants to know what would be the risk and fallout of maintaining a present geopolitical and geoeconomic stance and position. What would be the benefit of kowtowing to the Americans or even the Chinese? Let's start with General Shukla, then General Iyer, and then General Shankar. Sir.
See, given India's size and our geostrategic weight, we don't need to kowtow to anyone. I'm only saying, making this point, that we have two options. Either we work out a modus vivendi with China, that's one option. It can be done if we invest in deterrence capacity, so on. And secondly, if we think that the relationship with the Americans is in our interest, we should be able to smartly leverage it. We have great size, we have great heft, we are not Pakistan. So, if it is in our interest, and let me tell you, we are doing these trade negotiations, I am saying give in trade and take in national security. What the Americans can give you is just one thing: technologies, which nobody else can give you. So, smartly leverage the Indo US relationship to give some concessions in trade, but leverage them on national security and technologies.
General Harimon Iyer.
I believe walking a tightrope between two poles is not the answer. We have done that in the past and we know where we were. We can continue saying that we'll be non-aligned. It doesn't work. We better get aligned with somebody. Like General Shukla says, you can't say no to everything and expect a favorable response from the other end. Negotiations are always a series of give and take. Certain difficult political decisions have to be taken. And I guess that is a time when all political parties have to come together for national interest, give away some amount of agenda. That is, I am asking for possibly something which is unimaginable, but then that is how national interests are taken forward. If there is a requirement to given to some degree of, protectiveness be taken off, why not? Today we are not the country which we were, let's say, 4 decades ago when our farmers needed so much of protection. Today, we are possibly the largest nation which has such a large of domestic growth. Why are we still worried that our markets will get upset just because some amount of leeway is given to Americans in the agriculture sector? So what was applicable 40 years ago may not be applicable today, and definitely is not going to be applicable 10 years later. So we may have to take certain difficult decisions, and just General Shukla says certain things have to be given in terms of certain amount of take, which possibly is going to charter how India looks at becoming a developed nation by 2047. You can't go in the same course and say we'll become developed. I don't see it happening.
General Shankar, final word, sir.
Well, I think we should just focus on growth and growth and growth internally. We can't align with anyone because whom do you align with? The next question is: do you align with China? Do you align with USA? Both are uncertain friends. Right? Today is a day of opportunities. You have the capability to go on your own. You don't have to be non-aligned, right? But your alignments have to be different. Your alignments have to be tactical. Your alignments have to be strategic in certain places. So I think we have a whole new thing. I think we need to start rethinking the way we do business. Well, it's not in our DNA to be next to America or China. We have to also, we can't get away from it because it's our people. At the end of the day, governments function at the behest of the people, right? And every 5 years, people get voted in and voted out. And how do you project this to the people is something which we have not been able to solve so far. So I leave it at that. This is not something which we can sit here and say, oh, we should align with USA or we should align with China or we should align with Russia. We need to align to some extent, but largely keep our options open.
Thank you so much, sir. What a session today was, and we are going to have a very interesting session next week about parks and nukes. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you once again, gentlemen, General Raj Shukla, General Ravi Shankar, and General Harimohan Iyer. We'll be back again next Monday, same time. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
General Raj Shukla, if you could stay.
Yes.
You could, if you stay for a second after we go offline. Yeah,
Yes,
go ahead. Yes.